For my final project, I will be discussing the hardships that Muslim and Latino Americans suffer from not only the reigns of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, but also the American public stereotypes that have affected these people. Starting with the challenges of being a Muslim in America, this minority faces difficulties with fitting in alongside their peers. According to the Pew Research Center, which provides independent research about American attitudes on politics and major policy issues, there are about 3.45 million Muslims in the U.S., which is only 1.1% of the U.S. population. While they are such a small population, their religion, Islam, is very powerful as it's the second largest religion following behind Christianity. After the attacks on the Twin Towers in New York on September 11th, Muslim Americans have been under constant watch by the American public with the fear that they are undercover terrorists planning their next attack. Not only 9/11, but also Trump coming into power has been the root cause of Islamophobia to rise in our society.
Do you think it's harder now to be a Muslim American, or was it harder right after 9/11?
Well, I think it's probably harder now.
Islamophobia is the closed-minded hatred, fear, or prejudice towards Islam and Muslims that results in discrimination, marginalization, and oppression. Through the fear brought up by the stereotype, Muslims were drastically impacted by hate crimes performed by scared Americans. The FBI's annual hate crime statistic report from 1996 to 2013 documented average numbers of anti-Islamic offenses at 31 attacks per year before 2001, then a leap to 546 attacks in 2001, the year of the 9/11 attacks, and is now averaging 159 attacks per year since then. Donald Trump has persistently stated his hatred towards the Muslim community with his ban on the travel of Muslims to America and claiming that every Syrian refugee is a part of the radical Islam group ISIS. He quotes, "We have no idea who these people are, where they are from. They could be ISIS, I don't know. This could be one of the greatest tactical ploys of all time."
We wanted to travel to places like Northern Virginia, Minneapolis, and Staten Island with sizable Muslim American populations and get their perspectives on the effects that the 2016 election has had on their communities.
I think a lot of the Muslims are in fear of what may come if Donald Trump wins, since he is so opposed to Muslims, and a lot of people do support him for that. That's actually terrifying to know that a lot of people are against us.
They say now, with Donald Trump as a Republican presidential nominee, the discrimination against Muslim Americans has become more mainstream.
There is a clear uptick in the anti-Muslim, not only sentiments, but attacks.
In the book, The Girl in the Tangerine Scarf by Mohaj Kaf, the main character Kadra faces a lot of hate in her community for being openly Muslim. In the book, her mosque was vandalized by a radical group nearby. She describes it as, "The entrance was slimed with eggs and tomato. Toilet paper was everywhere. Markings in white spray paint were blazoned across the window panes of the clubhouse. 'Fuck you, ragheads, die,' they were signed. KKK, 100% USA." As for the Latino population in America, they have been consistently stereotyped as drug dealers, rapists, criminals, and pests, stealing from the Americans' way of life. During one of his rallies in the 2016 presidential election, Trump said, "When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have a lot of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists." Trump has also began campaigning for a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico.
We're in the middle of a crisis on our southern border. The unprecedented surge of illegal migrants from Central America is harming both Mexico and the United States, and I believe the steps we will take, starting right now, will improve the safety in both of our countries. It's going to be very, very good for Mexico. A nation without borders is not a nation. Beginning today, the United States of America gets back control of its borders, gets back its borders. The Secretary of Homeland Security, working with myself and my staff, will begin immediate construction of a border wall. So badly needed. You folks know how badly needed it is, as a help, but very badly needed. This will also help Mexico by deterring illegal immigration from Central America and by disrupting violent cartel networks. As I've said repeatedly to the country, we are going to get the bad ones out, the criminals and the drug deals and gangs and gang members and cartel leaders. The day is over when they can stay in our country and wreak havoc. We are going to get them out, and we're going to get them out fast, and John Kelly is going to lead that way.
For his budget, Trump is requesting for $2.6 billion to plan, design, and build 75 miles of wall to keep these bad people out of America. Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill's office estimated that per mile cost would be about $37 million, or nearly $67 billion for the entire 2,000-mile border. Congressional Republicans have said that they expect the wall to cost $12 to $15 billion based on the cost to rebuild existing border fencing, covering a third of that distance already. That is also not accounting for Trump's request to revamp the Border Patrol officers and create new policies regarding the Immigration and Customs Reinforcement, also known as ICE. In the poem To Live in the Borderlands Means You by Gloria Anzuola, she's explaining the issues of jumbling her multiple nationalities along the border of Mexico and the U.S. She says, to live in the borderlands means knowing that the Indian in you, betrayed for 500 years, is no longer speaking to you. That Mexicans call you Rajitas. That denying the Anglo inside of you is as bad as having denied the Indian or black. She is constantly misplaced and is trying to fit in, and she can never fully embrace herself as a human because she is always split between different categories that range in power in America. But are these immigrants really that bad? The Washington Post found that first-generation immigrants are actually predisposed to lower crime rates than native-born Americans. Of total primary offenses for all immigrants, not even just Mexican immigrants, 17.6% were drug trafficking related and 3.8% were sex abuse offenses. In order to create peace between the American community and the Muslim and Latino communities, we need to take the advices from these well-known speakers, Suzanne Barakat and Fernanda Ponce. Suzanne is a Muslim American who is telling the story about how Islamophobia killed her brother and sister-in-law. She uses the example of her neighbor Neil, who is a journalist, to help spread the word about how this attack is more than just a parking ticket dispute.
What resources and expertise do you bring to the table? Are you willing to step into your discomfort and speak up when you witness hateful bigotry? Will you be Neil? Many neighbors appeared in this story, and you, in your respective communities, all have a Muslim neighbor, colleague, or friend your child plays with at school. Reach out to them. Let them know you stand with them in solidarity. It may feel really small, but I promise you, it makes a difference. Nothing will ever bring back Dia, Yusur, and Razan. But when we raise our collective voices, that is when we stop the hate.
Fernanda Ponce is a high schooler explaining her struggles with being Hispanic and Latinx in America. She gives a few pieces of advice to Americans to learn more about the Latinx community.
I have learned so many things about what it means to be Latino and Hispanic. I did not know the difference between these two terms before I began this talk. But because of this, I encourage all of you that before formulating an opinion or a bias against any group of people, to ask questions, inform ourselves, and take risk by putting ourselves in other people's shoes and trying to see the world through their eyes. I encourage all of you to talk to the person you don't really know so well, or the one you've never talked to before. If you do, you can learn something interesting about them, and maybe they can learn something interesting about you. And in this way, we come to a complete understanding of one another as human beings.
Finally, Mohaj Kaf has a quote that perfectly embodies the attitude that not only Muslim and Latino Americans should have, but the nation as a whole. She says, "You do not know your own beauty. You struggle in grief, but I have seen it all, and I know you yourself are the secret essence." I take this as everyone is unique in their own cultural background, and so we should be able to embrace our differences rather than compare ourselves to others.